So, I heard you want your country back. Did the UK Civil War start at Glastonbury this weekend? There's a lot of commotion about middle-aged punk fannies Bob Vylan chanting "Death to the IDF," which is the Israeli army, not a discount sofa store. But a more pivotal moment was when he shouted, "I heard you want your country back, haha, shut the fuck up," to the adulation of the almost exclusively white middle-class Glastonbury crowd. Here's a picture of Bob Vylan answering the question, what would you get if you crossed some old rope left in a harbour with Cliff Richard? Despite all the Palestinian flags around him, he's definitely not saying, "I heard you want your country back, shut the up to them." He wouldn't dare. Of course, they must own their land, which must be protected at all costs. He'd give the Palestinians a solemn indigenous land acknowledgement, and then Hamas would hopefully behead him. No, when he says, "I heard you want your country back," it's directed at people like me, far-right gammons, or whatever you want to call us, who actually do want to change the trajectory of our country away from the relentless third world communist enshittification and reclaim it as a garden of Western civilization. Not everyone agrees with me that this is a good idea. He's chanting this to a field full of middle-class lefty Brits who've cucked each other into going along with it like they're on Twitter in 2020. Imagine being British and singing along to it. We've got generations indoctrinated into hating Britain and hating themselves and terrified of saying anything else. Look at this blimp with the yellow flower. They've been told it's just evil white racists who believe that nations exist and white people have a claim to their ancestral land, so they've suppressed any common sense patriotism. And once you've gone along with a humiliation ritual like that, you'll make sure that people around you do as well. Maybe that's why they scream so viciously for Palestinians to have their land. It's their own suppressed patriotism being redirected somewhere else. Because as we'll find out over the next few years, you need things like countries and borders and patriotism to fight a war. Nobody's going to die for land they've been told that isn't theirs. If anyone can cross the channel and come into Britain, why can't Putin's troops? The Russian D-Day style landing at Dover would be met by legions of human rights lawyers who would make sure they immediately get free hotel rooms with views over the nearest playground and free money and free mobile phones under whatever European human rights law controls our country now. And never mind war with another country, with the BBC, our state broadcaster, broadcasting these statements of war. Civil war looks inevitable. Let's look at the lyrics of this song. "We the people in the street got the gammons on retreat, and their blood boils over when we speak, so let it be heard, we ain't wasting a scrap when we eat, and when we come for it, then we're going to keep." Well, at least it rhymes, but he's openly calling for conflict with gammons, i.e. indigenous white Brits, and saying that when we come for it, then we're going to keep. So they're going to keep the land they conquer. Here's some more. "The only place I know, stolen right under my nose by ignorant scum trying to lay a claim to land that isn't theirs anyway." So he's saying that indigenous Brits like me are trying to lay claim to a land that isn't ours anyway? I think it is. I think that if anybody has a claim to this island, it's the people whose ancestors tilled the land for thousands of years. But the left go along with them. Honestly, look at this. This is like a satire of woke lefties. A sea of white arms elevating their ethnic pet, the only black guy allowed into their almost completely white enclave. When I was growing up, Glastonbury was famous for peace and love and good vibes with the hippies. Now it's people chanting death to Jews and saying that they're here to take over Britain. This all points to the growing tension between two tribes in Britain. On the one hand, we have the left-wing establishment virtue signalling that they want Britain to be remade as a socialist utopia with open borders, and they want whiteness to be abolished. Although it's very revealing that the space that they preach this open borders anti-white nonsense in has a very secure border with 0 fighting age men from the Horn of Africa allowed in to enrich it. Man, all I want for my country is for it to have the same level of border security as Glastonbury. They're blind to the hypocrisy. Look what the patron saint of the British left, Jeremy Corbyn, says.
If you can see that far, look on the wall right over there that surrounds this wonderful festival. And there's a message on that wall for President Donald Trump. And you know what it says? Build bridges, not walls.
Look at the wall that surrounds this festival. There's a message on it saying, build bridges, not walls. Well, why isn't it on a bridge then? Instead of security walls, surround your carnival of virtue signalling with bridges to let in grooming gangs and terrorists unimpeded. It's so bizarre to see people at a music festival waving the flags of terrorists who slaughtered hundreds of people just like them at Nova Music Festival in Israel on October the 7th. Glastonbury crowds celebrate the thousands of illegal migrants crossing the channel, passing around this inflatable dinghy filled with them. The only way to change these people's minds is to give them what they want. Next year, bus 20,000 illegal migrants into Glastonbury. Why should it just be kids in Rotherham who get to feel the enrichment? And Glastonbury goers think that Kneecap and Bob Vylan are anti-establishment, but they're literally on the biggest music festival in Britain, and they're broadcast by the BBC, our state broadcaster. Don't forget to pay your TV licence, by the way, so the BBC can give all the money to people who hate you. Britain's Royal Air Force, another British institution, used grey smoke for a display over Glastonbury to signal that Britain is now a communist country. The Bob Vylan guy has performed for the police at a conference for the Black and Asian Police Association. Kneecap have received over £1 million of UK government money. These people could not be more establishment. Any charges or protestations against them are theatre. Look at how the police are taking no action against Kneecap, who made a direct and credible incitement to violence, by the way, when they said, "The only good Tory is a dead Tory. Kill your local MP." Well, kill anyone who doesn't think Britain has a two-tier justice system, because Lucy Connolly is currently serving a 31-month sentence for a social media post that didn't come anywhere near this level. If Tommy Robinson was chanting for death like this at one of his rallies, he would never see daylight again. The BBC didn't stream Kneecap's performance, so this woman did instead. Helen from Swansea, who answers the question, what would you get if you crossed Rachel Reeves with Dog the Bounty Hunter? She's held up as a hero by the left for live streaming on TikTok, even burning her hand. Oh, Patsy Stevenson, lay down your crown. We have a new virtue martyr. These are the people running Britain now. Helen is from Swansea, which is 92% white. Nothing will change until people like Helen experience the consequences of their opinions. The left are now in open conflict with the Patriots, right-wingers and sensible people on the right. For decades, British people have asked for immigration to be reduced to a sensible, manageable level, but nothing happens, because even when our elected officials actually try to do it, they're stymied by the woke blob that really controls the country. And most of the time, our politicians have no intention of slowing immigration. They're desperate to inflate the economy by any means to stave off an economic collapse, even if it means bringing in fighting age men who commit crime and harass women. And they need house prices to keep increasing so voters feel rich. Some people have pointed out that we were told that when immigrants come here, they integrate and become British. But this Bob Vylan fanny was born here and still hates us. People don't leave their heritage behind. But actually, I don't think this is a case of that. I think this guy, Bob Vylan, is taking his heritage from his white British mother. Nobody hates Britain more than white lefties. Look at him eating his vegan ice cream. His real name is Pascal Robinson Foster, and he's got a master's in poetry. This guy is whiter than me. This civilizational clash is coming to a head, and after decades of trying to engage with the establishment to stop their children getting raped and stop their country being overrun, people in places like Ballymena are taking things into their own hands and dealing with the issue in a pretty direct and brutal way. It's not actually a white versus other races thing. In Ballymena, plenty of immigrants support the protest by the local community, and there are plenty of patriotic non-white Brits. This is essentially nationalists against communists. Now that the establishment are openly stating their intentions, the BBC and the mobs of leftists are openly broadcasting that they're going to fight indigenous Brits and take their land. This conflict is probably not far away from escalating into a kinetic phase with actual violent clashes. Nothing is going to radicalise patriotic Brits more than seeing this stuff on the state broadcaster. The BBC is Radio Rwanda for leftists. This weekend also saw a march against grooming gangs by football lads. I know people think the right are all perpetually online dweebs, and there are a bunch of people like that, but if there's going to be a showdown between these guys and the gimps at Glastonbury, I know who my money is on. So you heard I want my country back, did you? Well, that's good, because I do, and thank you for telling us that it's ours and that you want to take it. Oh, and before I forget, if you want to see me perform stand-up comedy live, I'm doing a gig at the Attic in Southampton on the 9th of July, and I'm doing 2 gigs with Francis Foster from Trigonometry at De Hems in London on the 17th and the 24th of July. There's a link below. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you want to support me making these videos, you can sign up to my Patreon and join a growing community of the only sane people left in the West. You get extra content. The Patreon version of this video includes the actual Glastonbury performances, and I've got videos coming soon on the push to abolish whiteness, and if it's a good idea, I look at places where it's been tried, like Liberia, Haiti and Zimbabwe, to see if it delivers the utopia that these left-wing academics promise. And I've got a video on military recruitment coming soon as well. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye.